The path to mastery leads through the heart of adversity. Challenge is the raw material from which courage and strength are forged. Warriors are not defined by events. Warriors define them. Warriors conquer themselves before all else. Warriors are relentless in their service to others. Join us as we open our hearts and hone our minds to a razor's edge. It doesn't matter how slow you go, only that you do not stop. Your time is now. And now your host, Jason McKenzie.
And welcome to another edition of the Mental Health Warriors podcast. If you want to support the show, I would be so eternally grateful. And the way you can do that, there's a few ways actually, which is convenient and handy. You could really share the episode. So if you see it on Facebook and you see the description, it looks interesting to you, and you think somebody might benefit from it, just share it with them. That would be wonderful. You can also leave us a rating and review on iTunes. That's super helpful because it helps us get found. It helps us appear higher in the search results, and it helps more people hear our message and hear what the guests have to say. And some of them have such important messages. So if you could do that, it really only takes a few minutes of your time. And again, it would be really helpful and I'd be really grateful. And lastly, you can support us on Patreon. So if you want to make a financial contribution to help us support, covering the cost of the show, it can literally be as small as $1 an episode. And that would be really, really appreciated too, because, it's not super expensive to do a podcast, but it's not free either. So it probably costs me about $100 a month for hosting and, the software and that kind of stuff. So if you could help with that, that would be wonderful as well. Actually not that far from breaking even on the podcast now. So anyways, regardless, this episode, you're really going to like, and it's with Andrew Beckering. Now, he's a masterminder, so one of the guys in our mastermind group, and he's a really special dude. And what you're going to hear from him is a guy who has worked really fucking hard and is working really fucking hard to overcome some of the demons that have plagued him throughout his life. And I mean, we're talking from a guy who's, been raised in a home where there was a lot of conflict, let's say, which, as we all know, and especially if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you understand how that type of environment, especially in our youth, impacts us through our whole life until we deal with it. And dealing with it means healing from it. And it also means, developing your self-awareness, developing your self-mastery, and finding ways to serve others. And Andrew's doing exactly that. And it was not that long ago when this guy was in the shit. And he is really working hard to change his life by changing his beliefs and changing his thoughts and bringing more self-awareness and self-mastery into his life. He's doing a phenomenal job in our mastermind. And, he's gone from, literally we're talking running a knife over his wrists to, making great and continual progress towards the life he wants to create. And I think one thing you're going to get out of this is you're going to see that, we're all real people, obviously, but Andrew's as real as it gets. He is a normal dude that I think you can really, really relate to. And you can see that it's possible. So again, even in the last 6 months, he's made profound changes in his life. And as you all know, these are the stories I love, right? It's people who have decided that what they are doing and the life they're living is not working for them. The choices they're making are not creating the life they want, and they decide to do something different. That's a power that we all have. And ultimately, if we want to change our lives, fuck man, we got to make different choices. And it's not always easy. But if you listen to Andrew, I think what you're going to hear is a guy talking openly and very authentically about him, how he's doing that, and what he's seeing that's different in his life. And you're going to walk away from it empowered to believe that you can do the same. And I know Andrew is scared shitless to do this podcast. It was his first time he's really talked openly about this. And as part of his journey, he's decided that his story can be a service to other people. And that's, as I say all the time, that's such a huge gift. And so he was very, very nervous doing this podcast. And I think he did a great job. And it's a gift. that he's given not only himself a huge gift, but he's given everybody who listens to this podcast a huge gift. And he's given the world a gift because it's acts like this that create a ripple effect that changes the world forever. So Andrew, I'm so fucking proud of you, brother. I know what it took for you to do this. And I know that this is really just the beginning for you. And it's going to be an honor to continue to watch you on your journey through our mastermind. And man, it's just going to be great to see what happens to you. And this is a huge, huge step. So again, I'm really proud of you. I know what it took to do this. And everybody, I think you're going to love this episode. So we will see you on the other side. Hey, Andrew, welcome to the Mental Health Warriors podcast, my friend.
Well, thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you are one of our current masterminders, and we were kind of talking last week. And one of the things that kind of came up through the conversation was you are feeling like it is time, the right time for you to tell a little more of your story. So I guess the first question I would have for you is, why now?
I think the mastermind has really helped me kind of going through those steps. And it's the last exercise we did was just one that really reached down deep into one of my mental roadblocks where I'm always holding myself back. I always say, I'm going to do it. And, I never do. I'm going to do this, but yeah, lazy boy's nice tonight. I'll just sit here tonight. Tomorrow I'll do it. And I guess, that last exercise kind of addressed that, and it just really pissed me off that I always do that. So it's time.
All right. So I guess, what are you hoping to accomplish by, it was funny because as we were talking and you shared your story, you almost had, you in the group, you had basically an immediate impact by somebody else saying something that they've struggled with, which was kind of funny because I always tell people that it's in sharing our stories that we create the deepest human connection and we make it safe for other people to do the same. But I mean, what are you actually hoping to accomplish by doing that? Or if anything, or do you just want to get it off your chest?
Getting it off the chest is nice. It's kind of therapeutic, almost like a journal to talk about it. But also, my story is not one of those deep, dark stories where I wake up drunk in a ditch one day and I need to fix my life. I feel like my story is like the average American who everybody sees out there, but is struggling deeply inside, but can hide it real well. And I just want to get it out there and let people know that it is okay to talk to people. It is okay to struggle.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, why don't we, where do you think the best place to start is? Do you want to kind of go back to the beginning, or do you want to talk about what some of your struggles are now that you're dealing with? It's up to you.
I can start at the beginning, kind of a little background.
Sure.
Mom and dad married. My dad was he just wasn't a very active father. Watch History Channel and do crossword puzzles and don't get in his way, and he won't yell at you or swear at you or, massive anger eruptions. I had a decent relationship with him. I don't feel like I ever, the one kind of relationship issue was I don't feel like I ever made him proud. So I was always trying to please him. But my sister, 4 years younger than me, was the one who really caused things to stir up in him. She's a wonderful person right now, free-spirited, just creative as all can be. He marches to the beat of her own drummer. She'll sleep 2 hours at night, take a nap when she gets home from work. She's just doing things all the time, but he didn't like that. And he started to physically abuse her and went through a lot of physical abuse with her, sexual abuse on her, and then also more emotional abuse towards me. So that started when I was about 12. And one reason that really kept me going through that time from 12 till I left the house was I had a baby brother born when I was 12. So I had to watch out for him. My dad was taken away several times by the cops. Had to call him because he was getting too violent. I remember him pulling down a shotgun that we had hanging. My mom and dad used to love to shoot trap, so we had shotguns in the house all the time. But he pulled it on himself, tried to kill himself. He was taken away several times, and actually the last time he ever was at our house, or kind of when the relationship really ended with him, is when he came out to take my little brother just on a shopping trip. It wasn't really planned or anything with my mom, and they fought, and we all started fighting and ganging up on him. And my sister got right up in his face and started yelling at him. I was 18 at the time, so she was 14. And he took her down to the ground and started hitting her. And I pulled him off and just hauled off and slugged him one. And that was the end of the relationship right there.
Wow. So did you feel, I mean, as an older brother, did you mention he was sexually abusive towards his own daughter? Is that what you said?
Yep.
Holy,
and I didn't know that till later, so that wasn't going through my mind there.
Right. But I mean, but you were obviously, were you aware of the physical abuse at that time?
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yep. It was something we knew that was wrong, but it didn't, it's like you were shielded from what was right, kind of. See, at that moment, you know, when he was abusing her, you didn't think it was wrong. It's just, she misbehaved, so she deserves to get slapped or get shaken like that. You know? What I'm saying there?
Yeah, so you actually grew up feeling like this was normal. So when it would happen to her, I mean, were you blaming her or feeling like she got what she deserved in some way?
Yes, I did blame her for my father's outbursts several times.
Wow. So, and then so you mentioned your baby brother was born and you felt the need to protect him, but you didn't feel the same need to protect your sister, or did you feel like maybe she didn't need protecting?
Probably a little bit of both. It started out that it was her fault, but then as it progressed through the years, it's like, well, she can stick up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end there, that final time, that's when I finally snapped and came to her aid.
So what was his reaction to you doing that? That's a powerful moment.
He called the cops on me, tried to get me arrested, but he ended up getting arrested that day for what he had done and taken to jail. And yeah.
So was that was that based, like, have you spoken to him since? Was that the total end of your relationship, or just sort of the end of that phase of your relationship with him?
That was the end of what I would say him being my dad. To me, he was just another person after that I didn't want to talk to. Let me see if I can do the math here. It would have been 2010. His older sister, my aunt, was in a head-on collision and ended up dying. And I wanted to go to the funeral, but I knew he was going to be there. And I sat and this is also the same time I was getting a job interview down here where I currently live at my current job, and had a lot going on with my life. And I ended up deciding that it was time to forgive him and move on from all this. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, I want to bury the hatchet. I don't know if I want to start any new relationship with you, but I just want to say I forgive you, and I hope you can forgive me for what I have done. And I left it at that. And I said, maybe we can write letters. Maybe let's just start slow and see where this thing goes. And he agreed. And then that was the last time I've actually talked to him. So that kind of different story. I don't want to get into all the details, but if you Google his name, Dale Beckering, he did some pretty off. He got remarried and moved out to Salt Lake City, Utah, and he did some pretty awful stuff out there before I was even able to start a new relationship with him. And he ended up in jail for 5 years, I think. And that's only because he rolled over on his wife and kind of gave her up. So she's still in jail out there. But I haven't talked to him since that day.
Holy crap, man! So when you decided to, do you have headphones in?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay, maybe it won't come across. And anyways, when you decided to forgive him, I mean, what was your thought process around that? Like, were you hoping to, like, was it a thing where you were trying to give him the gift of your forgiveness, or were you trying to, like, liberate yourself from carrying this yoke around?
Yeah, it was 100% for me, because I'd been battling depression for a while, and it was just it was time. You know, I would keep going back. I just had a kid. He was born in March, and this was October, and I didn't need that weight hanging over me, and I needed to move on.
Right.
And I truly forgave him, and you know what? I haven't thought about the issues really since that day.
Wow. So so you mentioned, when did you start noticing or dealing with depression?
My senior year of high school is when it started. Um, that was one of the, I don't like calling them suicide attempts because I pulled myself out of them. But I remember sitting down on my bed. My bed is in the basement with a knife, just running the blade across my wrist, saying, you can end it all right now, Andrew. And my mom actually came in on me there, and we ended up going to the emergency room. And that's when I got put on meds. College got worse. I probably would have killed myself in college, but the very first day of college, I met this lady, this girl, a freshman too, and 14 and a half years later, I'm married to her still. So that really helped out a lot, having her by my side that whole time, and she was super compassionate and helped me through stuff. But yeah, college was rough. Drank way too much, partied too much, and then was alone.
So when you get to the point, like, so you're a teenager, you say, and you're running this, you're in the basement, and you're running this knife over your wrist. I mean, what got you to that point, in the sense of what were you feeling, and what feeling were you trying to escape from, if you were trying to escape from anything at all? Like, I mean, how long, I guess maybe my question is, how long from the time you started feeling depressed or shitty or whatever you want to call it, how long was it from that point to the point you found yourself in your basement contemplating suicide?
Probably because it started right away in the fall of my senior year. So I dealt with knee injuries too in football. I was a big athlete back then. Football, knee injuries. New Year's Eve was my dad's last day in the house, so probably March, I want to say, if I had to guess. Mm-hmm. I was just dealing with, I don't know, I can't even this pain. I didn't have any way to mask it. I just wanted it to go away.
Yeah. Was it, I mean, is it possible for you to describe the pain? And the reason I ask is because I just think and if you can't, that's okay. But I mean, I think it's interesting and powerful for people to hear what that pain feels like. And the reason I say that is because when my wife was depressed, like, it was so much more horrific than I ever could have imagined. I had no frame of reference to even understand how painful something like this could be. Like, it was, not only was it inconsolable mental anguish, but I mean, she actually felt physical agony, like all the nerve endings on her body, on her skin were exposed. Like, it's so fucking bad, and I guess, like, I just never could have imagined such a thing was even possible if I hadn't witnessed it. So, I mean, I don't know if you can find some words maybe to put to your experience.
An empty stabbing pain is the way it felt. Like, I just felt empty, completely empty, no joy, no love. And it just felt like my insides were just aching, just dull ache, stabbing, kind of dull and achy, stabbing, kind of all different things. But my outside felt fine, and I could stand up and smile at the strangers or people I knew, but inside it hurt. Everything inside hurt. Yeah.
Wow. So what made you decide? Did you mention your mom came down, or what stopped you from taking your own life at that first point with the knife?
My brother. I knew I needed to be around for him because he didn't have a dad anymore to look up to. And she caught me right at the end as I was giving up.
Did you ever have any feelings of, even though your brother didn't have a dad and all he had was you, I mean, you weren't good enough? Like, did those thoughts ever go through your head?
Oh yeah, constantly. I wasn't good enough, but I was all he had, pretty much, is the way I would talk to myself.
So you mentioned you kind of put on oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you can keep
I was going to say, you mentioned you kind of put on a mask, like, you were empty on the inside, but you could still smile. I mean, what was the why did you feel like that was important? Like, did you feel like it was important that you put on your game face and act normal so people would know how badly you were suffering? Or were you afraid of being judged, or you thought it was just the polite thing to do? Like, how did you muster up the energy, I guess, or maybe the energy to fake it like that?
Um, Nobody needed to know, is the way I saw it. Nobody needs to be weighted down with what I'm
Yeah, I
going
see.
through. I'm just a
Yeah.
kid. Uh, yeah.
And so,
I mean,
so you went to college. So you go to college, and then you meet your wife. And I mean, does your wife? I mean, well, not then wife, a girlfriend at the time. I mean, how long were you with her before she? Did you let her in, or did she sort of peel back the onion by some of your behaviors and figure out what was going on with you?
a little of both. In college, I was introduced to a old friend of
Uh,
alcohol, and so I found a great way to mask it. But as many people who drink know, that you become awful truthful also. So there was times where I would just spill my guts, or my mom attempted suicide, I think twice my freshman year, and that really broke me down, and I drank my way through it. But also with the heavy emotion and drinking, wasn't real hard to come out with my feelings to my girlfriend at the time.
did you were you aware? Like, what did you get out of drinking? Because I mean, it's funny for me. And I'm curious if you were in the same situation, but I didn't understand why I was drinking at all. Like I just had told myself this story about the reasons I was drinking, and that it's, work hard, play hard type of dude, and got my shit together, and fuck, man, I can drink. Like, but I, I had no self awareness about why I was actually doing it, and the pain that I was, trying to hide from, because I didn't even know I was in pain. Like, it was the weirdest thing. I was so out of touch with my own self. Like, so when you drank, what did it, I don't know if you were consciously thinking about it or whatever, but what did you get out of it that made it better than the alternative?
I didn't realize I was really masking anything until last September, really, or August even. So I was just drinking. I pledged a fraternity. So I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's pretty much free beer
Mhm.
all the time. Whenever you show up your freshman year, it's free beer, which what freshman doesn't want that? And then it came to the point where it was just like, man, rough day. That test was brutal. I need a drink. Or, I just studied for 3 hours. I need a drink. And then it just kind of grew from there.
And I mean, socially, were you a lot more comfortable and charismatic when you were drinking? Like, was that a part of it too? You fit in better?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
easily. Yeah, I was. I don't know. Now doing some self awareness and self checking, I realized I maybe have shielded myself quite a bit from because with my dad, you didn't want to piss him off, so I had to hide everything and not really talk, and didn't really have friends in high school, and get to college and they're like, hey, drink this, and look at all the friends you hang out with here.
Yeah, gotcha. So what, I mean, how long now, like, one of the things I think is interesting, and I talk to guys about this a lot. And I know we've talked about this too, but I mean, you know, were you aware that why you were feeling this way? Like, were you able to make the connection between some of the shit that happened with your dad and your upbringing and all that, and the pain you were feeling as a young adult, or did you think they were separate things?
Um, there's a little connection there for me, and that's mainly because I was seeing a therapist
Okay.
when I was in high school as part of. It was supposed to be family therapy, is how it started out, but then we all kind of went our separate ways, and I met with a therapist quite a bit in high school, but that ended in college, and I just never went back. So there's a little connection there, but not too much.
So what did you think? So you said it was a little connection. I mean, what did you think? Did you have any idea the why? I mean, so you had a little bit of an idea, but I mean, what did you think the reason you were feeling so shitty was?
A lot of poor me attitude. It's always been like this. My dad was mean, piece of shit dad. My dad was abusive, so my luck's just going to continue. You know, uh, I'm just going to keep, I'm not going to be able to change this. This is who I am. This is how I act.
So how did those behaviors and that victim sort of mentality it's a powerful trap, and it's really fucking hard to get out of. So as you well know, I mean, but as you go through life now, so you're with your girlfriend, I mean, what's she thinking? I mean, she sees these behaviors in you. I mean, what does she think the reason is? And maybe now, how come she was willing to put up with them? It's probably something you ask yourself every day.
Yep. I still don't know why she's still here. Because at some points I would treat her just like shit because she tried to tell me that didn't have to be like that all the time. And I would yell at her to leave me. She needs to leave me for her own good because she's doomed to follow down the same path that I'm on. And, we can never have kids together because I don't want to bring another human into the world to live this life.
Right. So you did though. So what?
Yeah, I did.
So, I mean, what made you change your mind about that?
Well, the first one was an accident, so nothing on that one. And I guess it was mainly more based off her happiness at the time because she really wanted kids, and in our marriage, I really based my self-worth off her being happy. So
Gotcha.
she was, she had a shitty day at work. She'd come home to piles of dishes, and then I'd be like, "Oh no, I really screwed up. This is all my fault. I'm so sorry." And then I would just get so depressed to the point that I'd just be unconsolable. And I used to hit myself a lot, closed fist right in the side of the head several times.
Was that a, I mean,
Yeah.
when you look back on that now, I mean, was that a control thing, or was it like a punishment thing, or was it like a just losing control of your anger thing, or some combination of all of those?
I think it was a combination of all of those because one thing I noticed too is I learned if I act depressed, she'll start paying more attention to me. And, I didn't realize I was doing it. It was just, a learned behavior, I think. And then, I forgot the other two things you said were, because I went right to the control.
No, that's okay.
Thing,
but so did she recognize? I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a codependent relationship, right? Where you're acting a certain way, you're kind of giving each other what you say you don't want in a way, but you're acting depressed. She's paying attention to you, which causes you to act more depressed, which causes her to pay more attention. Do you think she was aware of what was going on, or that's just kind of the dynamic you guys were in?
I think she was slightly aware because I could tell every once in a while. That's when the big bad blow-ups happened. Is when she would try to fight back a little bit, and we just try to tell me, "Hey, I can have a bad day too, okay?"
Gotcha. So when do you realize, and because I know this is fairly recent for you, and I think this is something that I really want to talk to you about, is you realized you needed to make a change here, right? Because I think so many people, I don't know, they feel like change is impossible. They feel like a passenger in their life, like they feel like a victim of their background, their circumstances, the poor me routine, which you were highly, highly wrapped up in for a long period of time. Like, at what point did you start getting the idea that it was actually possible for you to change?
Probably a little more backstory here is I graduated college in 2007 at 280 pounds, I believe. And at my lowest weight since then was, I think 2 years ago, I was at 195. So that journey really helped me know that I'm not stuck in my patterns. I can change them. It's just I have to want to. And I didn't really grasp the I want to part right away because it was, I lost a lot of weight by starving myself and running. And then I lost a lot of weight. I joined Beachbody. I don't know if you heard of them. Doing the online video workouts. And then I became a coach and I started reading personal development. It's like, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And it's like, well, I want to sit here and put my mind to making tons of money. And that never happened. And then I really started reading more personal development. Nothing really sank in until it was actually last year in August when I finished half a liter of whiskey in front of my mom and ended up puking. And then I gave up alcohol for the month of September in the Dad Edge group. And I also had back surgery in August, and that's when I realized that the only thing that was keeping me sane was working out, because after I had back surgery, I couldn't work out. And then I gave up drinking, and I said, you know what, enough's enough. I look at my kids. My oldest is 8 now. He was starting to say the same things I would just say out loud, just because it was habit. I'm a terrible father. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I'm so stupid. And hearing that come out of your child's mouth just hits home. And then it's like, I don't want this anymore. I need to change. So I'd say last August is when it really hit.
Wow. And so did you have any sense of what that might look like? So you had consumed a bunch of personal development books, but it sounds like you hadn't really sort of implemented much of what you were learning, or maybe you implemented some. But I guess actually, let me back up a bit and say, what was it about that particular moment? I'm sure that was not the first time you got drunk in front of your mother. So what was it about that moment that flipped the switch?
I think that was the first time I ever threw up in front of her that I got so drunk. And the way I was doing it. So I've since have not had any whiskey in my house. I have an issue with whiskey. And it's the rate it gets me drunk maybe is what I like, but my wife would try to hide it from me, and that would just piss me off. So I'd find it and pour more. And that night she tried to hide it, and it was pissing me off. So I kept sneaking in the kitchen, drink a little bit, sneak in the kitchen, pour some more, drink a little bit more. So I never had an empty glass, but all of a sudden, the bottle's almost gone, and I'm puking in the bathroom. My mom's there.
So when this is interesting, because I used to do some of the same stuff. So when you're sneaking this whiskey, are you inventing a story in your head about why this is actually okay? Like why your wife is completely off base for trying to hide it from you? Because this is the shit I did all the time. I think it's pretty typical addict behavior, but I mean, she would bring up my drinking and how it was causing her concern, and I would flip it right back around on her to pick out something about her that, some, quote, weak point about her. I mean, so when you're sneaking this whiskey, are you feeling like totally justified in your own mind, or are you
justified?
Are you feeling like shit about it? Actually,
my story was always like, you know what? I still get up and go to work the next day. I'm still productive. I never miss anything. If the kids wake me up in the morning, I'm going to get up. I might feel like shit, and that's my own fault, but I'm going to get up with the kids. So this whiskey is not affecting me at all. It's kind of how I always looked at it.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. I was the same way. I mean, I sometimes think I used my working out to as a excuse to rationalize my own drinking. So if I drank a lot the night before, which was most nights, I was up and working out first thing in the morning, man, feeling like shit, but soldiering through it, because you know what? Most people I'm in the gym here. The gym's almost empty. I'm hardcore. You know what I mean? I got my shit together here, and totally. Not seeing what I was doing to myself. So when you stopped drinking for a month, I mean, I guess, what did you see?
I got
as
a lot of
result
mental issues I got to work on. The drinking usually stopped all the negative self-talk. It made me feel good and smile. If I had a bad day at work, come home, pour myself a glass of scotch, drink it, and then smiley, happy without really fixing anything, talking about it with the wife. So that month I went without drinking. It's like, I had a shitty day at work. I'm going to come home and, still have a shitty day at work and still feel about it and have to address it somehow, I guess. But don't know how.
Was that surprising to you that that happened? Because I went through the same thing where I started feeling all these, once I stopped drinking them away, I started feeling all these emotions that I was totally unfamiliar with. And it fucking sucked at first, man. I was like, I didn't even know what was happening to me. I thought it's so stupid. I was 40 years old or 41 years old. I'm like saying to my wife, I don't know what's happening to me. I'm having all these fucking feelings like, and she's like, you're having a bad day, you fucking idiot. Like most, you know what I mean? Like most people have, but I never let
Yep.
myself do that. I just drank the feelings away. So, I mean, was it a surprise for you that you started feeling these things? And was it a challenge? Did it make you waver in, holding this 30-day commitment to drinking to try to make this stuff go away?
Yeah, all the above. It, especially really bad days. If I had a real bad day at work where nothing went right and I came home and the kids are just being little shits and it's just like, fuck, just give me a drink, please.
Mm-hmm.
But then it almost made me feel like I regressed in all the quote unquote progress I thought I made through the years in my depression. It felt like I was back at square one almost. Here I'm stuffing feelings inside me. Can't drink it away. What do I do? Well, I'll eat it away is another one I still sometimes do, but I'm getting better at it. But, then I turned to eating and yeah,
But so
my mind's racing.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, no worries. So so when you stopped drinking, did you start gaining weight again? Is that what you're saying? Like last fall?
Yep, I did. After the back surgery, I went from 210 to about 230.
Okay.
Well, due to lack of activity, and I used to be able to work out more if I, ate too much or something. I could do an extra workout or something, but no working out kind of really brought a lot of demons to the surface that I needed to deal with.
So how did you? I mean, what were some of those demons? Maybe aside from eating, like what were some of the things that you realized through that? Are you drinking now? I can't remember.
Not really. My sister-in-law came down from Wisconsin. There's a good Wisconsin beer. She brought me some, so I had one or two this weekend. But I mean, nothing like I used to.
Are you ever tempted to go back there? Like to where, like to that level of drinking? Like is it tough for you to stay kind of on an even keel right now?
Honest answer, I'm gonna say no right now because one thing I do is I don't keep alcohol at the house. So I have a case of beer out in the garage, and that's the most beer I've had in this house for the whole year so far. So, and if it's not here, I don't think about it. So I guess, over the next month, I'll be able to maybe give you a little better answer. I just haven't had any here to tempt me with.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so you stopped drinking in the fall and, you mentioned some demons. I mean, as you progress through sort of the fall and, I guess closer to the end of the year, I mean, what are you experiencing on this journey? Are you working on like, some of the shit that happened to you, reconciling some of the shit that happened to you in the past? Like, is any of that going on or what's happening?
It was mainly just tons of, it probably did start in the past, just the negative self-talk. Every time I would screw something up, it'd be like, oh, you stupid dumbass, your dad was right, you are a failure. Oh, you dipwad, why'd you do that? Can't believe that. Or, if, like I used to go and if people I'd normally talk to, if they would be at work, if they would just kind of be having a bad day themselves, and I'd be like, oh, fuck, they don't like me now too. What did I do wrong? Why does everybody hate me? And those are the biggest things I had to work through, is just starting to learn to love myself.
Now that's a really interesting thing because it's funny. It's not funny, but I mean, I have this co-op student today. It's such an interesting parallel to a kind of a story he told. So, she's been a co-op student for a few months and, she's got pretty low self-esteem, right? Like obviously, and I really came to understand that today. And we had this thing that happened so shortly after, it was right after I started at this company because she started a week later. And I noticed, her attitude was, yeah, she almost seemed like she had a bit of a chip on her shoulder, and a chip in the sense that she seemed to be quite negative about certain things. And, so I wanted to make sure I feel like my job as a leader is to help her, if she's interested, is to coach her on, developing some self-awareness and how to interact with people in a way that makes them feel good and is productive. And so I said to her, like, I'm not mad at all. But I think you should know, like, this is what I'm seeing about how you're coming across. And I think you might not be aware of it. So, I want to talk to you about it. So we had a conversation about it. And I said, like, seriously, like, this is not going to Like, I'm not going to hold this against you. It's a learning opportunity. You're a co-op student. You know what I mean? Like, I wish somebody had this conversation with me because I was a fucking idiot, dickhead, basically.
Yeah,
So
no kidding.
yeah. So anyways, I come just today, actually, I talked to her and I wanted to set up a regular meeting with her. And this happened in January and she's been carrying this around like for 2 months. I couldn't believe it. She was bawling while we're talking. And I'm like, and that time, basically because what I said, she twisted it. Well, she interpreted it. I thought I was as seriously as gentle as I could possibly be, but her self-worth, her sense of self-worth, like our brains are confirmation machines, right? Like we're always looking around and whatever we believe, there we'll see ample evidence that confirms it. So if she has low self-esteem, for example, and I say something to that, she's going to take that as me basically telling her she sucks and confirming what she believes, which sounds like some of what a lot of what you had going on. And so I was talking to her today about self-love. And so you mentioned that, you needed to start learning to love yourself. So what did that actually look like? How did you embark on that journey? Because I think that's a really important lesson for people.
Started with journaling, just writing down in a journal. First, just vomit is how I kind of describe it. Vomit everything in my brain out on a journal. And when I can't write anymore, I got to write down 3 nice things about myself, whatever it may be. And it's kind of the same philosophy there that you just said. Your brain is a confirmation machine. So if I keep trying to search for positive things about myself, I have to write down. I'm going to start seeing them. And it was slow going. It was hard the first week. Just sitting there like, oh, positive things. You have nice shoes, Andrew. Good job. But it slowly progressed to other things. Like you handled this situation at work really well. Your son was a little dickhead to you, and you didn't blow up at him. You approached it calmly and actually solved the situation without anybody yelling. Just stuff like that is how it continued to grow. And it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns. There were some nights that I just slammed the book shut and skipped that part.
Yeah.
But
and so, was it a sense of like, I guess where you at? Because this wasn't really that long ago. So, what's your sense of self? Like, how would you describe your sense of self-worth now? Is this an exercise you're still doing? Have you come to terms with the fact that you're good enough?
yeah, I'd say so. The biggest thing was just learning to accept who I was that day.
Right.
Right now it's kind of, I listened to Sean T's podcast, and I'm reading his book. He talks a lot about self-acceptance. Sean T's one of the Beachbody trainers, but he's gone through a lot in his life, and he always talks about, like in the workout, when I tell you to flex your bicep, I don't care if it's a big bicep. Just flex what you got. That's all you got right now today. And the only way you're going to make it better is if you continue to flex it as you work out. And carry that over to your personal life. When you're standing in the mirror, that's you today. You can't go back and change everything that you've done in the past to change who you are right now. All you can do is change what's going forward. So that, the biggest thing has been quit thinking about what I'm doing, what I've done. I can't fix it. All I can do is go forward. So if I do snap at my kids, instead of sitting there and dwelling on it and calling myself an idiot, I wait till everybody's calmed down. I may go away, sit in the room for a little bit and just breathe. And then I'll come out and just say, hey, I screwed up. I'm sorry. The way you acted, it wasn't right, but it wasn't right for Dad to do what he did either. So we need to work together to fix this. And that's reduced a lot of stress in my life,
Awesome. So come to this year, or late last year, early this year, I don't remember when we talked. You decided to join our mastermind group, which, is a huge step, obviously, for anybody. And what made you decide it was time for you to do that?
To take it to the next level.
Okay.
So around here, I'm pretty much a homebody. I go to work, I talk to people at work, I come home and I hang out with the kids, and then when they're in bed about 8 o'clock, I just sit down finally and relax. So I don't really have this group of people that I go hang out with that are on the same growth mindset mission with me. I actually sort of ended a couple friendships on this journey. One guy used to go stand in his garage and drink beer with him, and we just sit and bitch and moan about the world, and that wasn't healthy for me, so I cut that off, and I take him in smaller doses now with no beer drinking. And I needed people that were on the same journey as me to push me to grow.
Okay, that's great. I think because I think that's so important, right? Whether it's a mastermind or something else, I think you touched on something that was really important, which is all of us have had people like your buddy, your garage drinking buddy in our life. Some people, that's really the only type of person they have in their life, which is those kind of caustic, non-ambitious, poor me, piss and moan types of people. And fuck, man, if you got people like that, like if that's I mean, I don't have anybody like that in my life, but if you have, I certainly did. And if those are the people you're surrounded with, man, what a fucking boat anchor around your neck. And I think most people don't even realize it. That's the thing, especially until you get around a group of guys like the guys in the mastermind or some of the other groups that we're a member of. Like, and you're like, holy shit, man, I didn't even know people like this even existed. But I never could have imagined. Like, I remember, I've said this a million times in this podcast. People are going to email me and tell me to shut the fuck up. But I remember when I first heard like that quote, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, that sounds interesting, I suppose, but like, I never, ever could have imagined what a total game changer it is. Are you finding the same thing?
Oh yeah. Yep. It actually, my mom used to tell me, be careful with music you listen to when I was still living at home back in high school, because it'll affect how you act. And it's like, shut up, Mom. You don't know. This is good music. I'm going to listen to this angry rock and roll and rap where they're, slapping bitches and whatever else they do in rap. I don't listen to that anymore. But, and then it kind of all came to fruition there as I started, after that back surgery, just started thinking, it's like, what do I need to do? I got to stop filling my head with garbage. And what's garbage? So sitting around and complaining about people's garbage. Look, my mom was right. That's a surprise about the music. And, it was just, it's kind of like a light bulb goes off. And you look at people different now. Like I sit and look and, trying to build new relationships. I sit and talk to people for a while and you can just tell right away. It's like, whoa, I can just feel the negative energy in you just sitting there. The guy I talk about in the mastermind at work, he's just everything. First thing he says when he walks in the morning is like, oh, I was so hoping work would be canceled today. This sucks. And it's like, dude, there's way more to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. So how have you found it? I mean, you're obviously opening up on this podcast, which is amazing. How have you found it? I mean, again, whether it's in the mastermind or other groups, like how have you found opening up? Like that's extremely terrifying for people. And how have you found doing that? Like, I mean, what's it been like for you to be able to open up? How's it been received? What have you gotten in return? Like, tell us about that experience. Because I think what you'll say will rearrange a lot of people's point of view about what it means to actually let our guard down and just fucking be ourselves finally.
You say it's hard. Yeah, I've been shaking this whole podcast with nerves. It's
good for you, man. That's good for you for doing it anyways, right? That's so important.
Yep. Opening up I think it's very manly because vulnerability, you're trying to help people. What I get back is I get other people back. Hey man, you're not alone on your journey. I feel the same way. I just don't have the courage to say it in front of everybody.
Right.
Or, good for you, way to be brave and talk about that. That takes bravery to go ahead and say that and to bring up a lot of things that opening up is kind of seen as counterintuitive as like, opening up is seen sometimes as being a wuss or sissy or an emotional wreck. But when you do open up and all these people start reaching out to you saying you're brave and courageous and, I'm jealous of that you have the courage to do that. It's like, wow, you're right. This is courageous.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's funny when you start having like conversations about shit that really matters, how lame most of the other ones you've had in your life seem to, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I was around all kinds of guys that would just be great. They're fine guys. It's not, I'm not putting them down, but I mean, it was all superficial shit, you know, like we never got deep on anything. When you start having like real conversations about stuff that really matters, it makes going back and having those other conversations seem somehow quite lacking.
Oh yeah, it is. We used to get upset talking about just little things, the way it smelt at work or something. And then now with you guys in the group and the Dad Edge group and all that, we start talking about the way you act and how it affects your kids and what your son, who's 8, sees in you as a man and how he's learning to be a man just as you're watching it. It's so much deeper and it's more fulfilling. You leave a conversation like that feeling happy, filled up, joyous, when that little shit is just, whatever. It's like a little drug. I need more of it to really feel satisfied.
Yeah, for sure. So would you say, like, at this point, how would you describe your battle with depression? Like, is still something that is looming that comes up from time to time? Do you feel like you've mostly healed, or like where are you at right now?
I'd say I'm pretty well healed. I mean, I still take the pill every day. I've tried not taking it before, and I don't know if it's one of those mental things where I trick myself into thinking that the pill's doing work and, I go back in depression. But right now I'm really just battling all the negative habits I built up over time, being depressed or, getting my feelings validated when I was seeking the attention, trying to act depressed and sad and like the world was against me. So it's really more, I'd almost say it's a one battle. It's really not a battle anymore.
Could you have, I mean, not that long ago, could you have ever imagined saying something like that? That's crazy to think about.
No, I thought it was something, like if you're born with 6 fingers, it's just something you have your whole life that you have to deal with. And if you don't deal with it, it'll consume you and end up, ending your life. But now I know it's more about just battling your thoughts and trying to just get rid of the shitty thoughts.
Yeah, I guess maybe to wrap up, that's what I wanted to ask you. So, I mean, what would you say to somebody who was in the condition that you were in not that long ago? I mean, and I got examples from my own life, people I care about that are still sort of in that spot. It's, negative thought patterns, not believing they have the power to make change, feeling like life is happening to them. When you suggest to them that they make some sort of small change, there's always a reason, right? I mean, always some reason. I'm too busy. It's too much. And you see them continuing to do the same patterns over and over again. And it's like, you want to say it like, and I have said many times, and I'm sure many people have been in a situation, but it's like, you actually are going to have to do something different. Like, I mean, like, I know you keep trying to think you're going to do the same thing and it's actually going to produce a different outcome, but you got to turn the mirror inward here. So, I mean, if there's somebody who's listening to this, and there's many people who are kind of in that situation and don't know what to do, I mean, what would you recommend to them, just as a small thing, maybe to get started?
I'd say start talking about your feelings out loud. Start, instead of keeping your thoughts in your head. And this may sound weird to some people, but I started doing it. Like I would, I just think I'm an idiot. You're an idiot for doing, you're an idiot, Andrew. Try to put a fact to it too. So Andrew, you're an idiot for, stubbing your toe on the wall or something. And if you say that out loud, sometimes it feels dumb that you're even thinking that. Sorry, I'm going around in circles here, but the facts. Try to find facts that support the way you're thinking.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. Yeah, and you're right, because saying the power in actually saying something out loud is crazy. Like, because when it's stuck in the echo chamber of your own head, there's no check or balance in there about whether something is completely nuts or not. And sometimes I always tell people, if you say it out loud and it sounds fucking dumb, it's probably dumb. Like but you never, I remember talking to a friend of mine, and he's like telling me about just recently, kind of suffering from depression, and
definitely suffering from depression and, coming up with all of these reasons why even the smallest change was impossible. And I'm talking to him and I can see the look on his face while he's saying this stuff to me. And because he's never said it out loud before. It's always been stuck inside his own head. And I'm like, I can tell by the look on your face that you can, like, it's obvious to you that what you're saying is fucked up. Like, I know you can see that, right? Like, you're saying out loud that every possible thing, like every possible change, no matter how small, is fucking impossible. Like, and I can see you don't believe it, man. Right. And that's why these conversations are so important, right? Because that's when you can have that back and forth and get a different point of view and maybe even call yourself out on your own self-defeating talk. So yeah, I think that's great advice, man.
Yep. It's even, do it in front of a mirror, say it to yourself, look yourself in the eye and say it. Like, body image is a big thing. Andrew, you're a fat fuck. And you look at yourself in the mirror and it's like, well, I was just at McDonald's and I've seen fatter people than you. You're not that fat.
Yeah. That's good, man. So, yeah. Well, listen, I really enjoyed this conversation. Before we sign off, is there anything else? If anything else you want to, any other wisdom you want to impart? I mean, could you have ever imagined how long, even before last week, could you have imagined you'd be on a podcast dispensing advice for how men or people in general can deal with depression? Like, fuck, how awesome is that?
It is awesome. No, this wasn't even a thought close to my mind at the moment. Just an idea I bounced around up in there that someday I wanted to do. So a week later, I'm doing it, I guess.
Yeah. And that's how the world works, right? Is you put yourself out there and then people, like when you put yourself out there and you're authentic, people want to help you because it's like, I talk to you and I can see that you're the real deal. And I'm like, oh my God, the world needs to hear more people who are the real deal. Let me help this guy, give him a voice, and that's actually how opportunities are created. Whenever I talk to anybody about whether you want to start a small business or you want to build a new relationship or you want to do something different at work, it all starts with being the person that goes first and starts having fucking real conversations with people, man. It's crazy how many doors that opens.
Yeah, it is.
All right, dude.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the one thing because you asked too, if I had to say anything.
Yeah, of course.
One big thing I'd want to tell people who are feeling down and are feeling sad is, one, talk about it. You got to talk about it. It's probably the strongest thing you can do to help yourself. And two, your story's not over. That semicolon movement, it's something. The sun will rise tomorrow. I had a teacher in high school who always says, you know what, Kmart's going to open in the morning.
There you go.
No matter what. So there's always a tomorrow. Keep your head up and keep going.
Absolutely. Although I think Kmart went out of business, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. That well.
No, I know what you mean, though, man. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? You can't see the end from where you are now. So I think that's great advice. So, well, listen, man, I really appreciate you doing this, and I know how much courage it took, and you did a fucking awesome job, man. And I can't wait to release it because this message from you shows people what's possible, and you are going to help people that hear it. So I give you a ton of credit for doing this, man. And I can't thank you enough.
Awesome. Well, it's great to be on. Thank you for having me.
Take care, man.
Yep, you too.
And how do you like that? A guy deciding he's been silent long enough and ready to tell his story and to do it with the intention of serving other people. That is fucking beautiful. And I am so glad you did that, Andrew. And again, I said it at the beginning and I'm going to say it again. It's an absolute honor to watch you embark on this, or not embark, you've already embarked, but to watch you on this journey and to play a small part in it. So thanks again. And it's going to be great to watch where you go from here. And I'm going to end this episode like I end every fucking episode. And that's by saying, listen, if you've struggled, I have struggled too. And if you ever want to talk to me, I won't judge you. And the more I say this, the more I really feel like I need to write a book about it. So I think that's something that's probably going to be on the horizon sometime soon. I don't know where I would actually find the time to do that, to be honest with you, but it's really starting to call to me more and more. So anyways, be that as it may, yeah, if you ever want to talk to me, trust me, I've struggled. So it's a safe place. Just reach out to me. You can probably find me on Facebook, the easiest. Reach out to me at jason@mentalhealthwarriors.com. And just be yourself. Be your beautiful fucking messy self, because that's the version that the world wants. It's the only thing that people expect from you. And if people expect something different from you, fuck them. That's what I say. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Consider giving the world and giving other people the gift of the real you, giving yourself the gift of the real you. You'll like yourself a lot better, actually. And we will see you in the next episode of the podcast. Thanks, everyone.